The most valuable part of a jet engine isn't the engine. It's the blades, and the company that makes the best ones has a business model most people never notice. Those blades wear out and must be replaced for the entire 30-plus year life of the engine. So this company sells the razor and then sells the blades over and over at a much higher margin. That company is Howmet. In the first quarter of 2026, its spare parts sales jumped, its margins hit a record 32%, and the stock now sits near a $100 billion company. But it trades at about 58 times earnings, a steep price for an industrial. So what exactly does Howmet make? Why is the aftermarket such a powerful engine? And is that multiple justified? Let's run the numbers. Start with the product, because it's extraordinary. Howmet's crown jewel is the turbine airfoil, the blade that spins inside a jet engine, and these are not ordinary metal. They are grown as a single crystal of superalloy, and they operate in gas that is hotter than the metal's own melting point. The only reason they survive is exotic metallurgy and microscopic internal cooling channels. They are among the hardest objects on Earth to manufacture. That difficulty is the moat. You cannot simply decide to make these. It takes decades of material science and years of qualification before an engine maker will trust your blade in a machine that carries 400 people. Every modern jet engine, and increasingly the gas turbines that generate electricity, runs on parts like these. Now, the part that makes Howmet special, and it's the business model, not the metal. A jet engine doesn't get bought once. Over its 30-year life, its blades and parts wear out and must be replaced again and again. That replacement business is called the aftermarket, spares. And it is dramatically more profitable than selling the original part. Look at the quarter. Spare parts revenue rose 36% to about $520 million, now 23% of the whole company. Engine spares alone jumped 48%. That mix shift is the entire story behind the margins. As more of Howmet's revenue comes from high-margin spares, its profitability climbs, which is exactly how adjusted EBITDA margin reached a record 32%. Howmet sells the razor once and the blades forever. Here's the counterintuitive twist that makes this moment so good for Howmet. You'd think Howmet needs Boeing and Airbus to deliver lots of new jets. In the short run, it's almost the opposite. Because new jet deliveries are running behind, airlines are flying their existing planes more hours to meet record travel demand. And the more those older engines fly, the faster their blades wear out, and the more high-margin spares Howmet sells. So the very thing hurting the airlines, a shortage of new aircraft, is feeding Howmet's most profitable business. It's a rare setup where the industry's bottleneck lands as a tailwind on one supplier. Howmet wins when planes fly, and right now, the world's fleet is flying harder than ever. So how does all of that show up in the financials? In records across the board. For the full year 2025, revenue hit a record $8.25 billion. Adjusted EBITDA rose 26% to $2.4 billion at a margin near 30%. Then the first quarter of 2026 accelerated. Revenue up 19%, adjusted earnings per share up 42%, EBITDA margin at 32%, and free cash flow of $359 million. Management raised its guidance for the full year. This is a high-margin, cash-generating compounder firing on every cylinder. And it just keeps raising the bar. This is the last stop in our recent run through the picks and shovels of the real economy. Next, we switch gears to the most expensive software stock on the market, Palantir. Subscribe. Now a growth leg almost nobody associates with a jet engine company. Remember those superalloy blades? They don't only go into aircraft. They also go into the industrial gas turbines that generate electricity. And in the first quarter, Howmet's gas turbine revenue rose 39%. Why? The same reason we've seen across this entire series, data centers. The AI build-out needs enormous amounts of power, much of it from natural gas turbines. And those turbines need Howmet's blades. So Howmet quietly plugs into the AI electricity boom from a completely different angle than the chip makers. It's not just an aerospace story anymore. It's an aerospace story with a power generation kicker bolted on. So, who else can make these parts? Almost no one. It's effectively a two-horse race. At the very high end of superalloy castings, the market is a duopoly, Howmet and Precision Castparts, which is owned by Warren Buffett's Berkshire Hathaway. Precision Castparts is the larger of the two, with the bigger share. But the two play it differently. Precision Castparts has historically chased volume. Howmet optimized for the high-margin aftermarket. And that choice is exactly why its margins look the way they do. Below those two sits a scattering of smaller specialists, but none with the scale or the qualifications to challenge the top tier on the most critical engine parts. When a part failing means an engine failing, customers do not gamble. They stay with the names they trust. And there are only two. Let's lay out the field. At the top, Precision Castparts, the Berkshire-owned leader with roughly a quarter of the global market and about $5 billion of aerospace castings revenue. Then Howmet, number 2 with a high-margin aftermarket franchise. Around them, a tier of smaller players, Consolidated Precision Products, Chromalloy in repairs and coatings, plus Doncasters, Hitchener, Impro, and Metaltech. But for the most demanding single-crystal turbine blades, it really comes down to the top two. Together, they own the high end of a market protected by metallurgy, certification, and trust built over decades. Howmet isn't the biggest, but it may be the best positioned because it owns the most profitable slice, the parts that get replaced again and again. Now the valuation, and it's a rich one. Howmet trades at about 58 times earnings on a company worth roughly $100 billion, near $250 a share. For a maker of metal parts, that is a premium multiple, the kind usually reserved for software. So why are investors paying it? Because this no longer looks like a cyclical industrial. Record 32% margins, a growing aftermarket that compounds, a multi-year aerospace upcycle, and now a data center kicker. Wall Street has noticed. Analysts have been raising targets into the 300s. But make no mistake, at 58 times earnings, the upcycle is already in the price. You're paying for years of continued strength up front. The quality is not in question. The price you pay for it is the whole debate. Let's put it together. On one side, the best positioned half of a high-end duopoly, single crystal blades almost no one else can make, a high-margin aftermarket growing 36%, record 32% margins, a gas turbine leg riding the AI power boom, and management raising guidance. On the other side, a 58 times multiple that prices in years of flawless execution and a deeply cyclical end market, because the same flight hours driving spares today would fall in any travel downturn. The stock, near $250, a roughly $100 billion company. The franchise says exceptional. The multiple says priced for it. So, where do I land? In my view, Howmet is one of the highest quality industrials in the market, a genuine razor and blade model wrapped around a product almost no one else can make, with an aftermarket that gets more valuable every year a plane stays in the sky. That's a wonderful business. But the cycle and the price both demand respect. Air travel is cyclical, and a 58 times multiple leaves little room for disappointment. A travel slowdown would hit both the earnings and the multiple at once. I'd want to own this franchise. I'd just rather own it when the aerospace cycle isn't already priced for perfection. The business is built to compound for decades. The entry point is what decides your return. My base case for the next 12 to 18 months. The aftermarket keeps mixing higher, margins stay near record levels, the gas turbine leg grows, and the stock trades on aerospace cycle sentiment and its own rich multiple. Watch 4 signals. First, the spares mix. About $520 million, 23% of revenue, up 36%. Continued mix shift is the moat compounding. A stall is the first warning. Second, the EBITDA margin, a record 32%. Continued expansion proves the aftermarket leverage. A reversal is the tell. Third, gas turbine revenue, up 39% on data center power. Watch this new leg hold. Fourth, commercial flight hours and build rates, up 20% in commercial aero. Rising flight hours feeds spares. A sharp travel downturn is the macro risk. Upstream, Howmet depends on superalloys, metallurgy, and qualification. Downstream, it sits inside the engines of the global fleet and the turbines powering data centers. The catalyst that lifts it. The aerospace upcycle and the spares flywheel running for years. The one that breaks it A travel downturn meeting a 58 times multiple. Howmet makes the single hardest part of a jet engine, the superalloy blade, and then sells the replacements for 30 years. That aftermarket flywheel pushed its margins to a record 32%, and a shortage of new planes only makes existing ones fly harder, selling more high-margin spares. It's half of a duopoly almost no one can break into, with a data center gas turbine leg riding the AI power boom. The catch is the cycle, and a 58 times multiple that already knows the story is good. The bull case is the best razor and blade model in industrials. The bear case is the price you pay to own it. One stock, all the numbers, no hype. I'm Big Z. Follow me. See you in the next deep dive.